Alright, so now we're moving back to the backend side and we want to finalize the checkout process. So we need to implement orders. So we need to make sure we get the address of the user and also the details of the specific order. Okay, so the previous video we've seen how to add products on cart, so we need also to make sure the backend side can be able to accommodate and get all those information needed in order to make sure that the certain product are delivered to that specific customer. Okay, so we need to figure out what we need on the backend side to ensure that everything is going to be in a perfect way. So in a quick way, we need an address. So what we need to do is we need to give user an ability to have multiple addresses. He can have a home address, he can have office address, whatever the address. So first of all, users can have many addresses, and then once he goes to checkout, he can choose one of the addresses that he wants his order to be delivered there. Okay, so we need to create a model for that, and we'll do it now. So the model itself we will call shipping address. Okay, so what do we basically need in terms of the address itself? We need an ID, and then we can call it an int, and then an ID you can give it a default of how to increment, and then we also need a city. Okay, so this is, we don't put it in a big, meaning that it's more of worldwide. You can say this, it's a simple way for countrywide, like the country itself. We are able to deliver the product that are within for the customer that are within the country, so we can keep it that simple as it is. Okay, so string and then dp virtual. Okay, and then we have street. Okay, I'm going to keep this as simple as it is, don't need to complicate it much, but from this you can make it more complicated and giving it more way to make sure you can deliver the product in a big area. Okay, so virtual, then it's 200. So the shipping address, it means this is going to be the address of the user that he will need to fill the form on the front end side, and then we will store this information. Okay, so after zip code we need user ID, so we will need to get the user ID for this address, and can do some relational here. So user and then relation and then field, the user ID itself, and then also references for the ID. Okay, and then once you so the good thing of PHP Storm, if you save it, then what will happen is this user can have multiple addresses. So one user can have many addresses. Okay, so with the help of this kind of relation. Okay, and the last part is to create it. I don't want to write this. Okay, so I will copy this and then we put it here and then we save it. Good. So this will be the model for address. So we will see, but the important information is the city, the street, and the zip code, and also we will get the user ID. We will see how to get the user ID with the help of stuffs in NestJS that help us to get this kind of information. We'll see how to use HealthGuard, and we'll see how to create a custom decorator that can be able to give us the necessary information that we need. Okay, so we will see that this will be for the address will have to be for a specific user, so we will see how to get that in a more secure in a secure way. Okay, so And after shipping addresses, we need what else? So we need an order. Okay, an order itself, right? So an order itself, it needs to contain a lot of things that we can be able to have necessary information that we will be able to use that information to deliver that product to a specific user. Okay, so we will have the order itself, and then the order itself will contain some particular stuffs that we will use those information to get and be able to know this user, where is he from, what type of order of product has he ordered, how many quantities for that orders for the specific product that he ordered. So how can we do that? We will create a model called order, okay? And also we will create a model called order item, we'll see, okay? And the last part, we will create the model, an enum, okay? So create an enum called order status, okay? And one last part we need to do is to have a role. So we create an enum called, we will see, don't worry, we'll see, user role. Okay, that's it. So now let's start to fill all this information and see what we need. And then, so order itself will contain an ID, okay. Let me close this, and then an ID of that order, right? So we can have that, and then db, and then you can keep it that is the default. It's going to be auto increment, and then you can say auto increment. What is this? Okay, and then we will have also the user ID. So it means we will, I think we need to copy only this. Okay, then we will paste it here. Okay, so one user can have many orders, as you can see here on the user side. Also, this is a user. So I think it needs to, we don't have to have any errors, so it can work properly. And then we need the status of that order. Okay, so what does this mean? It means that whenever we create an order, we have to keep track of where is it right now. Okay, so we need to go to order status. We can have a couple of status. We will have pending. Okay, so we can have pending, can have processing. Okay, and then we can have paid. Okay, and then we can have delivered, and then can have cancelled. Okay, and then on the order status, by default the order, it will be pending. Okay, and then I think also we'll need a shipping address ID. Okay, so this order we need to know where are we going to ship it from, what is the address for delivering this order. Okay, so we can have an address, it's an int, and then shipping address ID, then we can give some relational, making this will be from shipping address itself, and then relational, then the field itself is the shipping address ID, and the reference is the ID. Okay, so I hope this will have, okay. So after the shipping address ID, we need also order items. Okay, so this will be the last thing. I think also we need a total price. We need to know the total amount for this. Okay, so we need total price. We can give it as a float. Okay, then okay, so and then we can have created that and updated that also. This is important. And then let me copy it to L. Then what is wrong? Come on, what is going on? And command sorry, this should be here. Okay, so now we need also, so this will be the information that we will need for that order. And the last part, we need order items. So we need to know, so here we will know a very detailed information of the product, the price and the quantity for that specific product. So if it orders 2 items, maybe like jeans and also shoes, we need to know how many quantity for each of that product and the total price for that. Okay, so by that it means when you check this information of the order, we'll be able to know how many products and what are exactly those products. Okay, so let's fill out the model itself, this order item. Now let's fill the information, the model itself for the order items. Okay, so we will need quick ID itself. Okay, and then we can say it's default, and then auto increment. Okay, and also we need the order ID itself. Okay, so we need to know every order items must belong to a specific order itself. So they will need an order ID, and with that it means we can need to add a relational, and then so we can have relational, then field itself, its order ID. Okay, no, order ID, and then the reference is an ID itself. Okay, so we've seen how to add this kind of relation. And also we need a product. This order we will need product ID. Okay, what is the ID of that product? Okay, so we will use that to manipulate the stock. Okay, so you can see here we have stock, so we need to know the order ID itself, so we can manipulate stock. It means if the user submit an order with 10 stocks, 10 quantity for a specific product, then we need to deduct and all those kind of things. So we need product ID itself, and also we need that product ID so we can get the price. Okay, so product, and then you can add relational product, and then you can add fields, and then you can say this is a product ID, then also reference. Okay, and then we need also other information. What are it? So I think we need a quantity. Okay, we need a quantity, and then it's an int. Also we need the name of that product. Okay, so we can give it a string. Okay, and also we need the price. We can give it a string. Okay, and also we need the total. It means we will see, it means every quantity, if the product have price quantity, you can have a total. Okay, and I think also we need an image. Okay, and then we can keep it as a string, and also maybe we can add also this. So I think this is all we need for now. So this information we will get, and then we will store that, and then also we will use this kind of information to be able to, for the admin side, to see the order itself and how many quantities and all those kind of stuff. Okay, so with this, and I need to add one thing here, and it is called user role, and we will use this to determine if the user is an admin or else, and we can use this for the admin side. So if you're not an admin, you can never have access to the admin and be able to view all those kind of information. So we will add here, I think maybe anyway, we can just keep a role. You can say this is a role and it's a user role. Keep it null because we don't want to handle to default. So this is mean that, so by default all the users will have the default. Okay, so with this I think we are good, and we can see here the product, the category, and then category, we see we have added the shipping address, orders, okay, and then I think it didn't add here. We need to fix it. What is going on? There's one thing I'm missing here. Okay, now that's good. So orders will have multiple order items. Then those items will contain information to that kind of product and all that. So I think shipping address also. Shipping address also can have multiple orders. That's okay. So I think this is good for now, and then we can just move on to we can generate these, okay, and px Prisma migrate the name itself, orders model, and I think everything will be fine, and then we can move on to see how to deal with. We need to also give an user an ability to add addresses. So you see how can we tackle that? Okay, so the next part will be to generate. So nest generate resource, okay, and then call it shipping address, okay, and that we will create for us the model itself, shipping address, yes, and then that I think we are good. Minimize it. So now we'll have this, and it will also be imported on the app itself, app module. We'll have that. Okay, now we need to handle shipping address itself and give user an ability to add his own addresses for different areas. So he can have home address, office address, and many addresses, and then he can use that to choose whenever he's checking out for that kind of, for a specific order. Okay, move on to give an ability for user to fill out the form and submit the many addresses that you will need to use later on. We need to add some type of security. So for this, we need also to know the ID of that user, because when we install this kind of addresses for that user, we need to know who is that user. Okay, so meaning we have to have an ID for that user, and then when we do queries to give the information of all addresses that the specific users has filled the form on the front end, we need to give only the addresses that belongs to himself. So we don't have to pull all the addresses in the database, but only the addresses that belong to that user. So with that, it means we need to add a couple of securities. First, the user needs to be logged in, and then he needs to get the token, and then we need to validate that token and verify and decode the information, and we get that an ID, and then we use that ID to supply that as a user ID for that address. So we need to define a decorator. We can define a custom decorator for specific for the main purpose of custom decorator. We need only to fetch the information after the token has been verified and decoded, and then we can use that information to get the information that we need, which is the user ID. So if you see on the auth, when we implemented login and sign up, we defined this user active user data. This will be the decoded information after the token has been verified, which will have a user ID and the email. And then you can see here, when we implement auth service, we use this payload to create the token, and then on the JWT strategy, we use that to validate and return all this information. So whatever anytime when this information is valid and been decoded, we will have user ID and email. But we will use a guard, which in NestJS, its main purpose is to run that specific conditions, and if they're met, and then it will allow to go for another query, or I can say another step, which maybe for us will be to go to the specific endpoint and communicate with the service of that specific module and get that information. So I've got guards in NestJS act as protectors, which they've verify the information and run the condition that you specify, and if that condition is true, and then the user can be allowed to have access to that endpoint and get the information that he needs. So because we use passport, okay, it's very easy to do that. Okay, we just need to go to auth, and then we can create one TypeScript file, and then we can give this jwt.guard. Okay, and in here, just leave me alone, and in here we can say injectable, and then we can say export class, and JWT class itself will be JWT of guard I don't know how to write guard of guard, and then extend of guard from passport. Okay, passport, yes, and then you can use JWT. Okay, so because we use passport to handle these kind of things, it's very easy. You just need to define the class and get the auth guard from the passport, and then this will be able to handle the logic of verifying the token, and if it's valid and all that kind of thing, it will allow the user to go to a next step. Okay, so after the auth guard has been implemented, we can now create a custom decorator. Okay, so in here we can create a custom decorator. Okay, so we can define decorators. Okay, and then inside here you can define a TypeScript file, and then you can give this user decorator. Okay, and then in here we can define the logic for that decorator. So custom decorators, it means you can use this, you can define anything, and you can use this decorator to get the information that you need. Because what I'm trying to avoid here is anytime we are using auth guard, the JWT guard, it means we will have to use request and then get that information from the request every time we want, if that endpoint is protected. So you have to get the information from the request and obtain the user ID, or if it's an email, because what is happening, if after AlphaGuard has verified the token and then has decoded, they will leave those information to the request itself. So you will have the task to get those information from the request. So you have to do some kind of doing fetching and filter, or how can I put it, but you have to use every time the request itself and then get the information every time you are in an endpoint that has been secured. So with the help of custom decorator, you can define the logic itself to handle the request, to handle the object that are returned in the request, and you can define if you need the entire object or a specific information, because you will have the object that you used when you assign this token. So in this token, we define this payload and we use user ID and email as active user data, and we use those information to generate the token. Okay, so anytime you need this kind of information, user ID and email, you will need to get them from the request. So it's kind of a boring task every time, and especially if you are creating a system which is very secured. It means anytime you need to get the information from the request, you need to define every time you get a request and then get the information. If there is the user ID itself, if it's an email. So you will see how you use these custom decorators, and then you can define the custom decorators of your own and get all the information that you need every time you are passing it in the secured endpoint. So now let's define this custom decorator, and then we can see an example of how to use it on our controllers. The custom decorator itself, so we can say export const. We can name this active user. You can name any name that you're okay with it. And the main thing here is to use create param decorator, okay, and expect a couple of things, and then you can say okay, so it expect for us, we can define a field, and then the key of active user data or undefined, and then also you need to pass the execution context. Okay, so execution context, okay, and then inside we define and with const we need to get the request. Okay, so request, and then from each ctx, and then switch to http dot, and then get request itself, and then we are going to say const user, and then there is the user itself that is active user data. Let's go to request dot user. Okay, and we need to just return to me if the field has been specified, then return the user dot field itself, which has been defined. And if the field has not been defined, it means a specific field that you need, then return the entire user. Okay, and then we can okay, and this is okay. So this is a very simple active user decorator, which if we will not use this, it means anytime we are in the controllers, we need to get the ID of the user after being decoded. We need to every time to say request.user.userID and all those kind of things in order to get the information that we may need. Okay, but with the help of active user decorator, if the main thing here is if you specify the field, it means the specific field, either active user data or email, then you return, give me that field only. And if you didn't specify the field, I will give you the entire object, okay, after it has been decoded from the request. With this, we are good, and we want to go to we are good with here, and now we can go on in the shipping address and handle this. Okay, so in the shipping address, we have, the first thing we need to do is handle the DTOs, and then is a string, okay, and then also is not empty, okay, and it's a city, so the city must not be empty, okay. And I think a lot of things are repeatable, so let me copy here, and the second, third, and the fourth, and then here is street, okay. Then here we have zip code, and then here we have, okay, we have the user ID. Okay, good. So here, this is a DTO for getting the information from the request and validating it and verifying it. And I think by this we are good. Now we can go to the service itself, and first thing, we need to ensure that we import the Prisma module, because we need to interact with the Prisma client. So Prisma module, and if it's good, can go here, and I think okay. And then if we're good here, and then we go to shipping addresses, and then we add constructor for getting the Prisma client itself, and then here we just constructor, and then private Prisma. So you see, once you get hang of it, and you'll be able to just create any endpoints that you need, Prisma services, and then here, okay. So I think with this we are good. Now we can see how to create shipping address and find all, and then we can move to controllers, and then just be able to access that, and we can test also. Okay, see how to store the information of that. So we know, because we've done this so many times, so it's just now easy, and we can be able to achieve it. Okay, so but let's do it together. So address await, okay, so this dot prisma dot shipping address dot create, and then the data itself will be create shipping address DTO, okay. And then this should be on a sync, okay. And what's happening here, okay. And what is it? And design about create shipping address .dto. So normally is, and then just move this, okay. Data, and then okay, we will see. But and then lastly is if shipping address has not be created, we can throw new HTTP exception. Something went wrong. Okay, no worries about this. We will see how to handle errors in a very professional way. So for now, let's keep things much simpler. So, and then we'll do some refactoring, and we can Okay, and then HTTP status. Okay, not okay, and then we will return this. Okay, and then here shipping address, return shipping address. Okay, so let's see what's happening here, why I cannot create this. And then is it something to do with await, and then I've create shipping address DTO. So normally this has to do with let me see, and let me see the schema. Okay, I don't want to this to waste time, and hey, I want to go to the schema. Schema, it has a city, street, zip code, and a user ID. And then let's see if the DTO is correct. City, street, zip code, and also the user ID. Okay, we will see how to fix this. Let's go to the controllers, and then okay, then they can go to the controller. I want to explain something real quick, and then we can debug it. Okay, if it's not working. So here in the shipping controller address, we need to do a couple of things. Okay, so the shipping address DTO, as you can see, it needs all of this information. Okay, and also this is a secured endpoint, meaning you have to be having the valid token to access this endpoint and get the and process this information. So this is where we use guards in NestJS, which will be responsible to validate and verify if you have the valid token and everything is correct, and then it will allow you to continue and recreate this shipping address with the help of JWT auth guard that we have defined, and also with the help of passport itself. Okay, so here we need to say use guard, use guard itself from NestJS, and then you pass the guard itself, and then after this, it means this guard, after it's validated, it ensure that you have everything that is required. You will have obtained you will have the active user object, and this is where you use user ID, and then you pass user ID. So what is happening here, you get this information after the auth card has validated, and you will get those information from the request itself. Okay, so this active user get the information from the request and they return it based on the condition. And here we specify we need only the user ID here. So if the field has been defined, return that field itself. If not defined, then give the user him the entire object. And then here in create shipping address dot user ID, we can say is equal to user itself. Okay, and with this we are good. And this means anytime we will access this endpoint, if you don't have the token, you will be not authorized, and also we will also verify in the code and we will get the information, because we need that information because the shipping address belongs to a specific user. Okay, so now let's see and let's test this and see if it's working fine, and then we can finalize getting all the addresses for that specific user. So we need to see why it's happening here. It's saying argument data types. Once I go to Okay, let's run and see. So normally when you have this, it means your data is DTO is not in good format according to the data type you've defined or the schema. But I just need to know that. So usually I run the code and then it will be able to tell me what exactly. But this means this is something inconsistent with your data type and the DTO. So here the string of user ID. So okay, so the user ID is not the user ID DTO is not the format of the schema. So and the C and the this user ID is not is an int and it's not a string. Okay, so if you go back here and then this will be fine, and then yeah, I think, can you remove this? And then what else is an int, and then and see type is int. Did I define it as, let's see, active user data, it's a number, you're good, and then you can just use optional because we are pretty sure we know we cannot go anywhere without passing it. And then let's clear it and see if it's looking fine, and then see. So usually there's something going on, and then you have to figure it out. And then here's user ID incompatible. Come on. Okay. Let's go to the DTO, the city, the string is string, zip code, and then is int. I don't think I'm tired. It's a number. Come on, what's wrong with you? Oh, come on. Okay, now we are good. Okay, so and then now we can go and test this, and let's see how we can, if we hit this endpoint, and we have to verify on the controllers, it's called shipping address. If we hit this endpoint, come on, what is it? Oh, okay, it's a post. Okay, sorry. And we're going to pass this information. We need it's a city, street, and zip code. We don't need to pass the user ID because that will be passed. I will show you how we can pass that, but it's saying unauthorized because of the guard itself. Okay, so we use guard here. So you didn't give me the token so I can verify and decode if the information. So you need to make sure you are logged in and you have the valid token. So we can use login itself, and I think here we have John@gmail. And I want to show you something here. And whenever you are using login, mostly you will use Berry token. So you don't have every time to go and supply it. You can use this script and supply the JWT or the environment, and then you have access on all of your Postman. So for me, I can have the response. I'm getting that from response.json.access token, and then I define the JWT as an environment variable, which I can get that from the response itself. So with that, it means If I test this, I'm going to get access token, and that access token and the JWT will have this information. Why? Because whenever I go, let's say, to this, and I go to authorization and I pass bell token, I have that. So it means this will be will contain that information. So if I hit send, and this endpoint will be valid enough, and we'll have the valid token, and then we can have that. So you see here, I've passed a user ID, and this, meaning this shipping address, will belong to this specific user ID. Okay, so I think you get the point. You can repeat this video if you're having any issues. So that's the main thing, is using guards, and then using also custom decorators to get the information of this user ID. So with this we are good, and then we can go to services and finalize one thing, which will be to, of course you can do update, find one, but let's keep things simple, so we don't need to complicate that much. Okay, so now let's see how to find all the addresses that belong to a specific user, because we will need this endpoint when we are going to check out. You will see on the front end, on the mobile side, that we will need to have all the addresses for that specific user, and the user itself will be able to select which addresses that he wants is good to be shipped or delivered. So let's handle also endpoint to get all the addresses. Okay, and then here, okay, and then promise it's an shipping address, it's from Prisma client. Okay, and then here this is an async, and then what we are going to do here is simple, just give me all address. Okay, address, wait, this to Prisma dot shipping address dot find many. Okay, and here we can do some queries where user equals to the user ID. So we can use this user ID, but because of the help of we can, in JavaScript, just use this, and then it will know it's the same. Okay, and then give me all the addresses where it belongs to that specific user ID, and then simple, like if all addresses, and then just throw new HTTP exception, and then something went wrong. Okay, I know I'm not handling errors exactly, but I just want this to have its own episode, so we don't complicate things. And then this will be for those who don't know how to develop with Nest, can do this in a simple way, and then also they can see that video where we handle these errors and all response in using the help of interceptors and middlewares and all that stuff. Okay, so this is good. And then with this, I guess you know the flow is, this also is a protected endpoint. So the get, okay, and then we need also to pass this inside find all. Okay, and then here we are passing the user self. Okay, so find all that. Good. Now, did I close the terminal? Oh no, it's okay. Now if we go to addresses. Let me copy this. Okay, no, let me just switch it to get, and then you will get this address. Okay, and if you say no auth, and you will be not authorized, and then if you give the token, you will have the list of addresses that belongs to a specific user ID. So with this, we are good. Now, if you can see our model, it means when you add the order, we will need also to supply the user ID, okay, the shipping address ID. So we handle that also. So we will see in the front end how we give this information to the order, and then can see also how to add all this information. So here, I think in the shipping address, that's all we need. Okay, and we can move on also. Now we can just move on to order itself, and then handle everything that we need to process the order and all those necessary things that are needed in order for an user to be able to get his good in a good way. So that's it. So let's see how to manage and implement endpoints for the order itself. We've handled the shipping address module itself, so we know for sure user can be able to fill the information of the address, and then we can store that on the database, and also we use that when we are getting the information of that order. So we'll see how to do that. So the next thing now, we need to go to order itself. So nest generate resource, okay, resource order, okay, and then REST API, okay, cool. Then we know for sure orders are going to be added, and they're going to be added also on the module will be added on the app module itself. Now we're good. Now we need to go to order. So we have controllers, which is handle and order services and the order module itself. Okay, and here we can import Prisma, because we can interact with the order Prisma module, and then good. So in order, let's see, we need to before interacting with the just deal with the DTOs. So we're going to have two DTOs mainly. Okay, so I'm going to handle DTOs, and then we're going to see how to interact with the database itself. Okay, so the first thing is the create order itself DTO. So here we're going to have is the user ID itself. So we can say is int, and is optional, and then here, okay, from the class validator, and then here we can have the user ID, and then it's a number, so meaning that we need to know the ID of the user who is submitting this order, and then also his number, okay, and then is also is not empty, which is the total price. So these things you need to know that they're from schema. So total price, okay, and also his number, okay, and also we have the shipping address ID. Okay, we need only the shipping address ID. From there we can be able to know exactly the details of that address. We just need an ID, okay, and it's not empty, okay, and then shipping address ID equal to number, okay, and then I usually need to make sure these are correct, because you're going to have issues. And then we need also the status, we have this status thing, which is a type of order status, and so we need to do that also. So is enum, we have that in class validator, and then is not empty, and is enum, you need to supply the enum type order status, okay, and then is not empty, and then that should also be the status itself, and then we can say it's order status. And the last thing here is order items, okay? So we are going to also pass the items that the user has submit for meaning the product that the user wants. So that's we treat them as order items. So we need also, we'll pass that in the same request, okay? So we need to see how to validate that also. Fix. Okay, so here in the DTO itself, let's create a TypeScript file and then call order item. Okay, good. Now let's see what we need also. So we can create a class. We can export it. Make sure we export it, class order items, and then here we're going to have is a string, and then also is not empty, okay, and that is a name. Okay, so we can see the schema for the order items. We have name and okay, so let's copy these 1 2 3 4 5. I need to go quickly. So here is int, okay, and then okay, just okay, is int, come on, here is int, and then is not empty, which is the product ID, okay, good, and then it's a number, and also we have quantity, okay, is an int, so we give it quantity here, and then say it's a number, and also is an int, okay, and also one thing here, we need to say the mean number should be 1, okay, because we cannot say the 0 quantity, doesn't make sense, right? So, and also we have price, we have the price, and here is a string, and also we have the total, okay, and then the total is the string is not empty, and lastly we have the image, okay, good. Okay, so this is going to be the DTO for the order items, which will also be passed on the same endpoint and in the request. So here we can go back to the create order DTO, and we need also to validate the order item. So this is going to be arrays, because we can pass so many products that we need at once. Okay, so is an array. That's the first thing we need to make sure of it, and also is not empty, and also we need to pass this call validate nested, okay, and then we pass each equals to true. It means it will validate each on one of those items in an array, and then we need to use also type, okay, meaning this is going to be the type of order item DTO. Did I not order item sorry, it should be DTO because I want to have visual, otherwise order item DTO, and then here we pass order item DTO. Okay, and this is class transformer, and then lastly the order item itself, the name, and then that's going to be order item DTO, which will be the list of order. Okay, then just do some, and then good. So here we are saying validate everything, and validate everything that is inside here, and then if it's, make sure it's in a format that we need based on this information. So our create order DTO is good. Now we can see how to use that. What did I touch? Okay, and then here we will, good. And lastly here on update, it's very easy. And why? Because what we're saying here is this, we just want to make sure only one thing is available, okay, and the rest we don't need. If they're not available, it's not an issue for us. So how, let me show, right, and then here is not empty, and then ID, and then this number. Okay, so what is happening here is, on the update DTO, we extend the partial type, and we use the same create order DTO. So if any of the items will be so it's like it's like saying if it's there, and then validate. If it's not there, and then just don't validate. Okay, it's not required, but use the same DTO. If you pass the total price, then you need to make sure it's in a number and all those kind of stuffs. So with the help of partial type, which comes from map types in NestJS, we can use another DTO, and this will say like sometime, like it's like sometime. I think even in Ravel they have kind of those kind of things. So if that item has been passed, and then validate. So we use that on update, because normally not everything will be passed on the request, but if it will be passed, then validate it. And only thing that we're going to validate, and it is a must to be available, is an ID. So with this, it means we have create order DTO ready to be used. We also have order items ready to be used DTO, and also we have, and the order item DTOs is not just going to be used here in the create order DTO, and then we're going to see how to do that. Okay, so let's move on. Now we want to deal with order. So the main thing here is we want to achieve creating an order. So when the user on the front end or on our mobile side, he places an order with the product that he wants is to be delivered to his address, we will need to make sure we handle that on the back end side, right? So we've seen how to manage shipping addresses, and we've seen how to ensure that user can fill out the information of the addresses, and the user can also have multiple addresses for that. For one user can also have multiple addresses. So what we want now is to make sure we handle the creating of order creation. So always the first thing is to have a Prisma service, so we can interact with the tables. Okay, so Prisma service, and also you have to remember to import Prisma module. Okay, and with this we are good. So we have Prisma service, and also we've dealt with creating order DTO with all those necessary validations in terms of how our request we want to be, and we've handled all those kind of important validations. And now we are going to see how to handle in creation of order. Okay, so we're going to use transaction. So transaction in database, it's it gives us more control, because while we're using transaction on this scenario, we want to communicate, or we want to manipulate two tables at the same time. Okay, so the first table is product. So if you remember the product as a stock, okay, so you cannot allow user to process that order and if the stock is not available. So if we have 10 stocks only remaining and the user place order, he wants or she wants 20 stock, then it means we cannot fulfill that order. So we need to make sure that we handle those kind of scenarios. And also at the same time, two users may be pressing an order on the same time. So what transactions is going to help us is it's going to ensure that everything is going to ensure that if one of the operation fails, then it's going to roll back and nothing will happen. So this is very required, because if two users place the order at the same time, we want to make sure one of the user will be fulfilled and the next one, if the stock is out of is greater, or if the stock is lower than the quantity that the user wants, then we block that and then we don't process that order anymore. So transaction will help us to do that, because that's the main reason, and also consistent, and it will ensure that we don't take orders which we cannot be able to fulfill. So that's why I've come with to see that we will need to use transaction. Okay, so we will see here how do we how can Prisma help us handling this kind of scenario. Okay, also Prisma support transaction, so it becomes much easier. Okay, so this first is going to be an async. Okay, and then it's a promise. Okay, it's a promise of order. Okay, from Prisma client, and then yeah, so and then did I write it well? Async. Okay, now let's write this, and then we'll see how to I think I need to make sure that this the prettier must save must format on save. I'm not too good. I will see how to do that on PHP-Storm. I think there's some kind of settings. Okay, now let's see how to implement this transaction. Okay, we can create this, and so we say order sync, and then Prisma dot transaction. Okay, and Prisma dot transaction. Okay, go and call it dx, and then let me close this out to see it well. Okay, so and also here can return order. Well, what is it? Okay, now the first thing we need to do is to create an array of valid order items. So if the items the quantity is available, and then we can push that on the valid order items, and then we need to, so the first thing we want to handle quantity. So if the quantity is, we can deliver that if the stock is greater than the quantity that the user as requested, and then we can process that order, right? And then so the first thing is we want to handle the scenario of making sure we have the right quantity. So we want to do some kind of loop, and then so we can say of because as you remember, order items is an array. It's okay. So and then find. So we need to find the product by ID. So let me write here, find the product by ID. Okay. So the first thing is we need to interact with the product table, and then so find product is equal to await, and then it's a tx dot product dot find unique. Okay, and then we want where the ID is equal to an ID order item dot product ID. So and then so if and then if let me see, I think it's some kind of okay. So and then so now we are saying if product, and then we want to parse int because and the stock is in string, and then stock, okay, product stock is greater than order item dot quantity. Then okay, so here we want to update the quantity. Okay, so we say product dot update. Okay, and then where an ID is equal to order item dot product ID. Okay, and the data itself and stock, and then we want to do some kind of, we need to parse int. I'm going to explain, and then product dot stock. Okay, and then keep it in an int format, and then minus the order item dot quantity. Okay, and then to string. Okay, and then here maybe some formatting. Okay, and also here. Okay, and also okay. So what we're doing here, if the product stock is greater than the items, the quantity of the items, then update that by reducing the stock, okay, for that quantity. So if you have 10 available stock, and then the user is only want 2 stock, 2 quantities, then we just go to the product itself where the ID is equal to the product ID, and we just eliminate 2 products, so we will have the remaining stock of 8, right? So here that's what we're doing. And then what we're doing here also is, after that, validate order items dot push order items. Okay, so now we have that item, so what that is what it will do. And after this we can say else just throw a new exception, and then what I've done, new HTTP exception. Okay, so and then we say that we use this, so product, and then maybe we say order. We have something, we have order item dot name. Okay, so product dot item is out of stock. Okay, and then HTTP status not acceptable, maybe. Yeah. Okay, so what is happening here? I think this must be here. Okay. Okay, now I think it's good. Okay. Okay, so let me show you the two things here. Let me show the schema for the odd items. And if we see the product itself, the stock is in a string format. Okay. And then if we see create order DTO, the stock is also this one, order item DTO is the stock. Where is the stock? No, we don't have the stock here, we have a quantity. Okay, so the quantity here also is in number format. Okay, so that's why in this order service we need to parse this stock to make it in an integer format, and then we can be able to do some minors and all mathematical stuff, and then we return it to string, and then that will be filled on the field itself. So with this, it means we've handled the scenario of making sure we have the stock is available before processing this order and create that on the database. Okay, so now this is the first thing. Okay, now after making sure that we've handled the product and update the stock, we need also to create the order on the order table. So that's we need to do. So we will go to here and then manage creating order on the same okay transaction. That's why we use transaction. Okay, so we have managed that, and then after handle the updating the stock, we need also to store the information of the order. Okay, so create const created order, we call it that, and then we say await tx dot order dot create, and then okay, so here we need data itself. Okay, and then use id will come from create order DTO dot use id, and also we have status, which will come from created order dot status. Okay, and then we have shipping address id, which we will get that also from the request, so created order dot shipping address dot id, and also have total price, and then that we will get it from created order dot total price. And also we have the order items itself, so order items. Okay, what is happening here? Can you order items? Okay, and then we create. Okay, create. Okay, so will be the valid order, the valid items itself, and I think here some formatting. Okay, okay, and here also, and some formatting, this. Okay, so return created order. Okay, now we are good. So let me explain it for the last time, so it can be, I know sometimes it may be hard to grasp some kind of these scenario situations, but we don't want that we update the stock, but the order but for some reason was not created, right? So we don't want that kind of situation to happen. And also we don't want to create the order if we don't have the enough stock for that order. So we don't want to end in the scenario where the user wanted maybe 4 genes, but the stock on the system is remaining of only 2 genes. So it means this order we cannot fulfill it. So we don't want those kind of scenario, okay? Because the order we created, but we will not have all those 4 genes on our stock. That's why we use transaction. So what is happening? Validate and make sure that we have enough stock to fulfill this order. And if we have enough stock to fulfill this order, then move on also and create that order. So we are dealing with 2 tables, and that's why I use transaction. And this, if this also is created in the system, then this transaction will be successfully. And if one of these transaction fails for some reason, then roll back, don't and manipulate any order, don't create any order, or don't manipulate the stock itself. Okay, so this is the beauty of using transaction. So you may find some scenario whereby you need to have this kind of implementation. So one of them is dealing with creating of order. Okay, so with Prisma also they support transaction. Okay, so this is how we have managed to achieve that. Okay, so with this, now we need to go to controller and configure it also and test it to see if it's going exactly. So you need to remember one thing, in that also creating a folder is a protected endpoint, and you have to have a valid token. So we know with that it means we have to make sure we use guards, and then we add JWT auth guard, and with that we also need to use our custom decorator to get the information of active user. Okay, active user, and then we just want the user ID. Okay, and with this I think we are good. Okay, user ID, and then okay, and then what user ID, it equals to the user, so we are passing that also on the field itself. So with this, it means this endpoint is protected, and you have to have the token, and it has to be verified, and if everything is correct, then you can continue and process this and order. Okay, so let's test this first, and then we can find all and update that order. Okay, because we have order status, so we need to update that so the user can know what's happening on his order. Okay, so let's see how to test this on Postman, and then verify everything, then we can move on to finalize other endpoints. Okay, says some errors I fixed, but I will explain. This was not supposed to be order items, it was in a smaller case, and then it was supposed to be this one. So you need to make it the name is the order item, not order items with lowercase. Okay, and then with that it will be fixed. Okay, so we have the controller, and also make sure that's to run, and then npm run. So let's go to Postman. And what I've done, I've logged in, okay, and with login I have access token because this is a protected route, and then I fetch my addresses based on that. Okay, so I have one address, okay, and also I also fetch all product because I want the information. On the endpoint it may be too much to test manually, but you will see on the mobile part where we will handle cut functionality, cut feature, so everything will be very easy to. But in the endpoint I have to do a lot of things manually, taking the name, the price, and all of that. And this will be our endpoint. Okay, so the status will be pending shipping address ID, and here we get that from the shipping address. Okay, you remember you need to know the address. The total price is 700, but how? And as I said, the cut system on the cut feature on the mobile we will handle this. So the product ID, the first product is Samsung, so the product ID is 2, the image is, we can take, the quantity is 2, and the price is 100, so the total of these will be 200. And also the same for the second product. It is smartwatch, the product ID is 3, quantity is 5, and also the price is 100, and the total will be 500. So we'll have the total of 700. I have to do this manually, but that front end will handle that very well. Okay, and I get all the information here. Okay, so the key things here we will need to watch is the stock. Okay, and the stock, as you can see, all of them, they've 100 stock. And so I want to test one scenario where I'll assume it will process this order because the quantity here is 2 and here is 5. So we are expecting for Samsung to have the remaining of 98 and here remaining stock to be 95, right? So let's hit this endpoint and see. And then API orders, I think it's order, sorry, it's order. Good. Now let's test this. Item, what item should be? Okay, so I need to go to created order and order item. Okay, not items. Okay, and let's run this. Okay, so this product was created. Okay, and this will be so we are returning it, so it's successfully. Okay, that's good. What if, and also if we go here on the product itself, let's fetch it again. The stock will be deducted from 100 to 28. Okay, and the same here to the stock here will be 295. So this is good. Okay, that's good. Okay, what if we hit another and here we say 150 quantity for Samsung, right? We want to see if this will perform. Okay, so what we will do, let me switch here from, and then okay, so let's test here and then let's run this. Okay, it will say not acceptable. Product Samsung is out of stock, right? Because we are giving it too much, and the stock is remaining 98, so we don't have 150. So this is good. So our orders are well taken care of. So let's see how to get all those orders and also update the order. Okay, now let's continue and let's implement find all. And so can say, I believe now a lot of things are becoming easy to understand. We've done a lot of examples. Okay, so here is simple. We need to get promise of order. It's a list, and then okay. So what is it? Don't worry. Okay, now we need our orders, okay, which are based on the user ID. So also this will be a secured endpoint. So we need to have valid token, and then to continue with this. Okay, so wait, this dot prisma dot order dot find many. Okay, and then where we need to do some query. So where will be a user ID is equal to the ID we are passing it on here. Okay, so we will get all orders where that they're belonging to the user with that ID. So if you remember, on order we have a user ID. So it in order to know which user, so here we need also to add a couple of we need to include also so include, it's like join, so include also order item. Okay, and then you can say true, and then also shipping, and then you can say true. So this order we will have all the information necessary, and we can return it. Okay, so return order. Okay, and also we will have a dedicated section where we'll see how to handle these errors in a very good way, but let's not keep this video too long for now. So we say something went wrong, or you can just everything and wrap it in with the try and catch. Okay, so not found, where is not found. Okay, and then with this I think that's all we need. Just do the filtering and queries, making sure that the orders that you're getting are belonging to the user itself. So this will be a secure endpoint. And also from the controller itself, it's the same flow. Okay, we need our use guard, because we don't want this to not be a secured endpoint, and also we need an active user itself. Okay, which will pass it here on, and here we just give it the user itself. Okay, so we know the user ID itself, it's an ID, so that's why we don't have any complaints here. And with this, man, we can go to Postman, and then what is get all orders, and also here let's try and hit this and see it's order, not orders. Okay, and then we will get our order. So we will have everything we need: order items, the order ID itself, the product, Samsung, and everything that it needs, and also the shipping information. Okay, so we can see here these orders we need to be shipped to Mwanza and Rock City and all those kind of information. And also you can just keep it more complicated shipping address, but as long as you have the way to implement this, you can decide what do you need on your shipping, what do you need to get from the shipping address. So if you have numbers, if you can deliver the product with a house number and all those stuff, but it's, for me, I just keep it simple. Okay, so we have everything we need in order to ensure that this order will be delivered to the right address and all those information of that order. So here we know the price, we will know the name, the quantity, okay, and all that. And also this is for the front end, that's why we pass this information. So if in the user, we need to know what he ordered and how many, and also the total price. Okay, now this is good. And then we have one thing we need to see, we need to finalize, which will be to update the order. And I will show you how to use providers and NestJS to handle complex scenarios where you have you don't need to, we don't want to fill a lot of things here and make this class too large. So we will uh, move it some of the logic on their own class, and then we will see how do we connect them here on the other service. So just to keep this file clean, so we'll use providers, and then we will see, and we will use providers on update. So we want also to be able to update the status of the order, if it's in progress or if it's being shipped or cancelled. We need to also to know that. Okay, so let's see how we use provider to implement an update. To handle update. Okay, so I'm going to use provider case, and then okay, so you can see, and because it's update, so it has a big some kind of logic to hand. I don't want to make it this file to be so long, so I don't want to make order service itself to be so long, to be a long file. Okay, so I'm going to use provider, and with Nest it's simple. You just use generate, and you say it's a provider, and here we specify the place where you want this to go. So it will be in order, and then call it on the providers folder, and then we can call this update order. Okay, and then we don't want any kind of test files or anything, so no spec. And then okay, so what it will do, I need to do something, update order provider. It's okay. So what it will do, it will create you a provider, a special class. So the scenario for wanting to use provider, if the logic itself is too complex and you don't want to make your order service too long file, so it can be hard to maintain later on. So with this, it will create update order. Okay, and then it will it will also add the provider of update order. Okay, and with this we are good. Now in update order, we can create the file, the class itself. Okay, so first of all, it will need to interact with Prisma. Okay, Prisma, and then Prisma service. Okay, that's the first thing. And then now we and sync. Okay, we call this update order itself. Okay, and then it will need an update order DTO. Okay, so it's an update order DTO. Okay, and then so with this I will leave it like this for now and connect everything. Okay, so update order DTO, and what we need also to do is we need to go to order service, and then we need to go to order service, and then we go on top of it is file, and then we add also the update. Okay, so it's private read only update order. Okay, it's an update order. Okay, coming from provider, and then here I believe let's do some cleaning, and here also, and with this we can only call this update order, and we go to the update order file itself, and then here just remove this because we have an ID, and here there's things become very easy. So what we do here is, and first it's an async, and then wait dot this dot update order DTO to update order. It's expecting an update order, and then let's do some. Okay, so you will see how big the file is, and you will say, yeah, this is good, because now we need to make sure order service file itself is so clean and easy to maintain. So if we have any kind of complex logic, we're dealing maybe with third parties and all that, we can keep the implementation on its own provider. That's why we use providers, that because they it helps to make sure we can give everything or any implementation on its own file. Okay, so with this, it means update order will have we will be able to have everything here, and if it's going to have 100 line, it's okay, as long as it's not going to interact with an update save order save itself. Okay, so and in update order DTO here also we need to use guard. Okay, and then we don't need an ID here. Okay, okay, so return this update order update. Okay, this is good. Okay, but we will test everything to make sure everything is working fine. Now let me show you, and I won't write this code, it's too long, but I'll just explain so we don't make this video so long. Okay, so I will paste the code itself, and I'll explain what is happening. Okay, connecting the provider to our order service, and so the provider itself will handle everything. Okay, so here our code is much cleaner. So I want to explain what's happening. So what on update the order itself, we have to handle there's some couple of scenarios. So the first is we need to get the current order, so that we'll get it from the update order to.id. So we will know the specific order we are supposed to deal with, and if anything has happened, then you can just say request timeout exception, and those kind of unable to process your request. So this is a much nicer way of handling errors that may occur. Okay, so try with catch. I know we didn't do a lot of the try and catch, but we'll have a special episode and we'll handle those kind of things. So here, if the current order is not available, just throw this HTTP exception. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to update to change the status. Okay, so in order we have order status, so that's what we want to keep it updating it based on the scenario. So we are using switch here. So if the status is processing, it means if we change the status to processing, then just update that order to the status to be processing, and if anything is happening, then as usual catch the error and throw that. And if it's paid based on this order status, then just update the status to paid. If it's cancelled, if it's delivered first, I will explain the cancel. If it's delivered, okay, just update that order and update the status that this order, the status of it is in delivered. And what if it's cancelled? So if that order was cancelled, then we have to use transaction, because we want to find those order items, and then we include the product, and we need to update the product where the product ID is equal to the order item.product ID and update the stock. So if you order 10 items, let's say, and if you order one item, let's say with 10 quantity, and you decide to cancel, it means we have to handle that. It means we have to return the stock as it was on the system, right? So this is what we're doing. So we will get a stock and then update it, the quantity, and then return those quantity that you've ordered. So if you order 2 items, if you ordered one item with 2 or 5 quantity and you decide to cancel, then we need to return this quantity, so that everything will be in a good way. So that's why we did that, and also we update the order status of that to cancelled. Okay. So so as you can see, it has a lot of things. That's why I needed to use provider, and that's all. It's just to update the status. We are dealing with status here, and if it's in another if it's in cancel, then we have to handle the logic of making sure we return those stocks on the system. Okay. So I think for much part of order APIs, it's okay. And now we can also see how we will use these APIs from the admin side and also from the mobile app side. And okay, so I think we can move on to another section, but for now the orders is okay, we can deal with it.